Welcome to Tuesdays with Terry. We're very excited for this week's episode. We have a couple of exciting things happening and, of course, a couple of exciting guests joining us. One of the first things I want to say is we're excited to be in we think will be our regular studio here in Home Dean 111. So we'll call this Studio 111 possibly as we move forward. But again, we're very excited to be here. As you can see, throughout our interviews today and talking with our guests, you'll see we have our Halloween theme kind of going here in the office, and we're excited about Halloween activities that are taking place on the campus this week, even though you'll probably be viewing this episode after Halloween. But we're, again, excited to share a lot of the things that are happening this week. My first guest this week on Tuesdays with Terry, we're very happy to have Sara Haviland joining us this week. So welcome to the show, Sara.
Thank you for having me.
Yep, it's great to have you here. Kind of one of the questions, many individuals know you across campus, but talk a little bit about kind of what you do here and kind of what student success means here at Aquinas College.
A lot of students will encounter me right from the very beginning of their journey.
Mm-hmm.
They might have met me on a tour. They might encounter me at Star Day. A lot of times I meet families for the first time at Star Day. But once we get the school year rolling, I spend a lot of time making myself known. Mm-hmm. Because when you're in high school, there's not a director of student success. Mm-hmm. So they're kind of trying to find what is equal from their reference point from high school. Mm-hmm. And I would say, don't need to worry about that. There's not like a me at your high school. So that means I really have to get myself out there amongst the students. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that initial meeting is just very practical matters. Mm-hmm. I lost my student ID. I got a parking ticket. Mm-hmm. I don't know how to find my parking on mm-hmm. campus. I don't know where my class is. Mm-hmm. So, some of those beginning conversations are just getting to know you kind of questions. Mm-hmm. And then we might wander into I'm well known for being involved with study tables, so they might see me walking around in study tables. My library, my office is in the library, so they'll see me walking around, maybe with snacks, mm-hmm. to ask how students are doing. Just generally just kind of being available mm-hmm. to students. Mm-hmm. I really try to clear my schedule those first few weeks mm-hmm. to welcome drop in traffic, because here at Aquinas, one thing that I really love is the community. Mm-hmm. And I think the biggest way students encounter me is by students bringing other students to my office to meet me. Mm-hmm. Because when they hear Director of Student Success, sometimes they think GPA is equal, that's success. Mm-hmm. And although that is one form of being mm-hmm. successful, there's lots of other forms about being successful, mm-hmm. as we both know. Yeah. So I always say, do you know how to order pizza and get it delivered to the right dorm? Do you know where a great cup of coffee is off campus? Do you know how to have a maintenance request in your room? Mm-hmm. So some of those things, I would say you didn't know how to do those things. Mm-hmm. So being successful is also learning to navigate our beautiful campus and learning to really navigate and appreciate the surrounding communities like Easttown, Heritage Hill, Gaslight Village, mm-hmm. Reed's Lake, mm-hmm. get down to Art Prize. Mm-hmm. So that I really advertise a lot on my social media. Mm-hmm. So students follow my Instagram at AQ Study Tables, and they know that I'm going to give them good information about what's going on campus, deadlines that are really important to them mm-hmm. in the right now moment, and then what's going on off campus that is free, walkable, interesting. So it might be yoga at the farmer's market. Mm-hmm. It may be an interesting book club in mm-hmm. Easttown. Mm-hmm. It may be a craft fair mm-hmm. or a thrift shop mm-hmm. in town that I think they might enjoy going mm-hmm. to. So, part of my responsibility is making sure they feel really welcome into the community, but also they have the skills to leave campus and appreciate this beautiful place that we call home.
And I think one of the things that I've learned here, in my 4 months here so far, is that I hear that Sara Haviland is quite the poster on social media.
I always say that, I'm very new to it. For a long time, I was like, no, I'm not getting on social media.
Okay, so you had a...
It was a hard stop.
Hard stop,
No,
yeah.
people are like, no, you should, have funny reels and dances, and no.
Okay.
But COVID pushed me into that.
Okay.
Like, oh, you should be on social media, and I was looking for ways to stay connected to students. Of course, when we were back on campus, I was here every day, but I still wanted to like reach them.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're like, oh, you should try social media. And when you're new to social media, you don't really know what you're doing. And so one thing that I said is I went to like a planting activity on campus, and I was taking all these pictures and then posting them one after another. I didn't know you could post like a collection of pictures.
Okay.
And so my phone rang in my pocket when I was knee deep in my 8th or 9th picture of a plant.
Mm-hmm.
And it was my oldest daughter, and she said, Mom, you need to stop what you're doing. You need to go to a freshman. You need to ask them how to post a collection of pictures. And so I went to the nearest freshman and explained my dilemma.
Yeah.
And they said, you don't know how to do that? And I was like, let's make a list of things that like you don't know how to do. Help me. And so help me. And so I think students really appreciate me being honest.
Yep. Which is going to come to a story later. Yep.
Yeah. Which when I don't know how to do things, I'm going to tell students.
Yep.
Because if I need to like be vulnerable to them too. And because I want them to come to me with questions.
Yeah.
So I would, I guess students would say I'm well known for caring about a lot of students, but I feel like they also care a lot about me.
I'd agree, yes.
And so...
so you were able to now you've become this professional social media expert.
No.
You would not say that
I would not say that. I would say I'm very good at euchre, but I would not say I'm professional on social media. But I enjoy it, and I post a lot. I always say you don't know many people that have more posts than followers. I post.
So you have way more posts than followers.
I have so many posts.
So that we've had a conversation about us getting here in the office the AQ Provost Instagram going. So this will be thank you. We are working on how that works. Again, I'm learning as well and need some assistance. So we're going to kind of pick that up a little bit. But our viewers out there, where do they need to go, and what handle do they need? Is it handle?
I'm not going to say I know that.
Okay,
I'm on
fair.
Instagram at aq.studytables. And I would say I have alum that still follow because they want to know what's going on. I have families that follow because they also want to nudge their student. And, it's not fancy. I always say I don't sing, I don't dance, I don't have a smoke machine like the women's volleyball team. I don't have a hype song.
But these are all possibilities for the future, though, right?
I'm trying to work out getting the smoke machine.
Okay.
But maybe that's in my budget. We'll see.
Well, or we could have maybe one location that it's library is when individuals come in and check things out. So maybe we look at
getting a smoke machine
for opportunity.
We could do a hype video together.
Oh, we could. Oh, what?
With the volleyball team.
We would need some help. I'm going to own that.
I'm told that there is help available for us.
Okay, excellent, excellent.
Yeah.
Well, we know that you have a story that we talked about prior to the show, and then also here just a minute we got a little window into that. I think it's a fantastic story.
Yeah.
But it's one that you tell often.
I do tell the story.
Would you mind sharing that with us?
Yeah. I always say that students want the truth. They want just good information, and that I don't lie. I expect students to make mistakes. I expect them not to do things the first time the right way. I want them to expect that out of each other. I always say to them, if you don't make any mistakes and you're not stretching far enough, and I need you to stretch into areas that you've never tried that before. Like, it's not in avoiding the mistakes, it's like falling and getting back up. So to illustrate that, I always tell the story about when I first started at Aquinas. I helped with move-in day. I had an Aquinas t-shirt. I didn't have anything that said staff on it. And I went to Sturris, where the dean of students was gathering the parents and the students together, the freshmen. And at the end, after the dean talked, they said, parents, you may now say goodbye to your students. Because they wanted orientation to start, and they wanted the parents to leave campus. And I didn't expect that. And I was so touched that I started to cry. Because,
it's a significant transitional moment.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I take my responsibility very seriously. And so I started to cry, and not a cute cry. The kind of cry.
Oh, you were really into it.
Well, it got enough attention of people around me that this one woman looked over at me, a mom, an Aquinas mom, looked over at me, and she felt bad that I was like so choked up that she looked at me to sympathize and said, son or daughter. And because I didn't want to say, oh, I work here, because I was so embarrassed, I said daughter, because I only have daughters. And they said, oh, and then the mom kind of scooched closer to me and she said, oh, my daughter's going to live in Regina. Where's your daughter going to live? St. Joe's. I mean,
So you're going down the road now. You're well on the way. Yep.
It had left.
Oh, the train left the station, if you will. Yes,
Yep.
okay.
Yep, I was knee deep here. And then she said, oh, my daughter's going to science. What's your daughter going into? And I said, Spanish. And she said, oh, that's great. And by this time, this mom is like sitting next to me. And she says, I'm going to go find my daughter. You go find yours. Then they can be friends too, implying that now we were friends. And in that moment, I could have said, I work at Aquinas. They were all lies. I'm just embarrassed. I'm sorry. I could have done that. That's not what I did.
That's not the choice you made. Okay.
Nope.
Yep. Okay.
I could have found a new freshman, convinced them to call me mom the next 4 years, and explained it very briefly. I did not do that either.
Okay.
Or
so I think I know where this is going then. Yep.
I got out of stress. I left. And so when the mom returned to her new mom friend with her daughter, nobody was there.
Okay.
And so I tell that story because I just want to be honest. I want to tell students, if I say you didn't do well in this first test, it's going to be okay. I want them to trust that it's an honest assessment of the situation, and then I'm going to help them get a better grade. So I don't, part of the joy of coming to a small school is that you have access to a lot of staff and faculty that sincerely want you to do better. They want to hear your goals. They want to talk to you. There's no reason to cover up that grade. Let's just talk about it. So I think students know that about me, that I'm not going to spend a lot of time telling them you should have done better. I'm going to say, okay, let's dig in. Let's figure it out.
Here's where we're at. It's kind of that concept really, and I think we do it very well here at Aquinas, is really working with students to meet them where they're at and develop that path forward.
Yeah. And, I always say a zigzag line is still going forward.
That's true.
It does not have to be straight. And just accept that this is part of the process, and you don't have to stick every landing that you ever try. Let's try some new things. You've never done yoga. Let's try it. So,
excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Now, kind of the fun part of the show.
Okay.
We'll do some rapid fire questions here, just to kind of get to know our guest.
Okay.
First thing that comes to mind, don't overthink it. Just kind of throw it out there. Favorite kind of pasta?
Penne.
Okay. Your favorite pizza?
Margarita.
Your favorite cheese?
Mild cheddar.
Your favorite cookie?
Oatmeal chocolate chip.
Excellent. And one last one, your favorite elementary, or not, it doesn't necessarily have to be the favorite, your most memorable elementary school memory?
For sure, hands down, my most memorable is in third grade. I went to a small school here in Grand Rapids, and I got caught cheating on my Roman numerals test.
Oh, okay.
I'd put the answers on an index card, and at the time, the desk could have like a slate opening.
Oh, yep.
And I had propped the card in such a way that I could see it. And so during the test, I used my cheat card, and I got caught. And the teacher kept me after school because in those times I was a walker. I'd walk home from school. So the teacher kept me after. She called my mom. My mom came up, and I was just like so embarrassed that I had gone and done that. And then the teacher at that time had a box that was in the corner of the room. It was called the thinking box. And when you did something that was not good, like cheating, you went and sat in the box and thought about it. And so I had to do my hour in the thinking box, And so even to this day, Roman numerals make me think about third grade. And
so even if you're working on an outline or you're reading and you're like, whoa.
I'm an English major.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
There's lots of outlines.
There's lots of outlines. So there's lots of memories of third grade. And the thinking box. So the thinking box, just briefly, was this just a...
It was green.
It was green. Okay.
Wrapped in construction paper.
Okay. So it was a dedicated thinking box. Like it had its place in the room and...
It had a desk in it. It was a refrigerator box.
Oh, okay.
Size box.
Okay.
With a little door.
Oh, wow. Now, the door wasn't locked or anything, was it?
No, it was just a paper door
just
that was cut into the cardboard box.
Oh, wow.
And you went in the box, you sat in the box. Yeah.
So you don't have to, so did you spend a lot of time in the thinking box?
No, I didn't spend a lot of time in the thinking box, but it's such a strong memory of what the box looked like and where it was in the room. And I could go into that elementary school blindfolded, and the smell of your elementary school building.
I mean, it's one of the things when we talk about memory and we talk about the vividness that it can be, smells, colors, the whole bit, like it's all there.
Yeah, because in those days you would, you'd wear your winter boots and you'd put plastic bread bags on your feet. Yeah. And you'd put them into the boot. And there'd be puddles in the hallway that you'd have to kind of go through to get back into the room. And but I could go right to that room at the end of the hallway, left-hand side, back corner, and take you right to the box.
Right there.
Yep.
Well, Sara, we appreciate it. We thank you for taking the time today. I know we appreciate all you do here at Aquinas College. So thank you again.
Yeah.
And, we'll be right back with our next guest on Tuesdays with Terry. But Sara, have a great afternoon, and we'll see everyone here shortly.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Tuesdays with Terry. We're very excited. Our next guest comes to us from the history department, Dr. Jason Duncan. So Dr. Duncan, or Jason, I'll go back and forth if that's okay.
Fine.
Very excited to have you on the show.
Thanks, Harry. Glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So tell kind of, our viewers, we have a wide range of viewers that watch the show from, our faculty, staff, students, alumni. Tell us a little bit about kind of your passion and your interest in history. Where's your, if I were to give you, give me the elevator speech of Dr. Jason Duncan's passion, where would what would it be?
Depends how high up the elevator's
going. That is fair. That is fair, yeah.
So I grew up in Albany, New York, a very political city.
Yep.
And my father was a politician, and he was first ran for office when I was 4 years old. So I've always had a great interest in politics, the excitement, the ideas, the competition. And I respect it. I've never run for office, but I respect those who do, especially now in this era, because it's more difficult than it has been for a long time. And I guess I mentioned American political history from the beginning to the end. And I would say especially Catholic history, Catholic involvement of Catholics in American history has been an interest of mine. I'm currently trying to complete a book on the 1836 presidential election, which I'm nearly done with, God willing. And it's an election that I think is important for showing the significance of parties, which we live with today, but it's gotten sort of fallen through the cracks, and there's never been a book on it. So mine will be the first, and that's my hope right now.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you've never ran for office.
No.
Have you ever wanted to or thought about it?
I thought about it.
Yeah.
Thing is, if that had been my goal from the beginning, I would have stayed in Albany, where I grew up.
Yeah.
And my father was well known. It hasn't worked out like that. I like to think I'm not too old to do it. I don't think I am. I'm younger than at least one of the candidates, about the same age as the other. But, it's expensive and it's time-consuming, and I've got a full-time job at Aquinas, and I have my family, and but I do know a lot of politicians, both major parties, and in other parties too, and I do think politics can be a noble calling, as Robert Kennedy said, and I don't want to be the type of person who is I don't want to ever let me rephrase that. I don't want to be someone who simply bashes politicians all the
Yeah.
time without ever getting off my couch and doing it. So I try to give them the benefit of the doubt. They're under enormous pressure today, both all the wide range of politicians, and the election's coming up, and no one knows what's going to happen in terms of who wins or what comes next. But we're all invested in, I think, a peaceful transition of power is important, even if half the country is going to be either disappointed or very disappointed in the outcome. And that has been a tradition of American politics, with a recent exception in part 4 years ago that I think we don't want to have again, regardless of who wins. So politics is important. It's interesting. As an old Russian revolutionist said, you may not be interested in politics, but politics is interested in you, so it affects everybody. So I try to encourage my students to take an interest in it, a respect for it. It doesn't mean you have to accept everything every politician says, of course not, but have an informed opinion, cast an informed vote based on your conscience and what you think is right.
And I think that's, as we look at, the show here today, we're taping this, and likely when the show will go out, it'll be in the depths of, figuring out, who will be in our highest office here in our country. And I think that's a piece that, as you're talking, we're, making sure that individuals have gotten out and expressed their voice and expressed, and voted. I think that's an important piece of probably throughout history, and the aspects of, the importance of casting your ballot.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's been times where people could not vote. Women could not vote to the 19th Amendment. African Americans were barred by law until the 1960s in some parts of the country, or by custom. Immigrants have had their voting rights challenged even when they became citizens. So it's not something that we take for granted. And it's a special thing, that right, and to exercise it responsibly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And, when you think about, throughout the year, obviously there's an intense focus right now on the election and other races and other important, whether that's local, within the community, and then on the larger scale. Do you think there are other times a year when it's just as important to pay attention to kind of the politics?
Well, that's a good question.
Yeah.
After the new legislature meets in Michigan is important the first few months of the legislative year. Congress is in session around the calendar. And I think it is. It's easier than ever to follow it because you have access to the web and internet. But in some ways, it's harder than ever because there's so much information that it's hard to know what to look at, what to focus on. And there's always the aspect of the outrageous comment, the bomb throwers on all sides who make inflammatory statements, and they get the publicity. I used to work in Washington on Capitol Hill for a member of Congress, and there was always members of both parties who were kind of workhorses. They didn't spend a lot of time on TV. They were experts in one area, and their colleagues respected and trusted them, even if they disagreed with their philosophy. And that part of politics gets overlooked. I didn't really fully realize it until I was there. And I assume we still have people like that of both parties in Washington who are focused on that as opposed to getting on a cable news show or raising money. I realize they have to raise money. That's kind of the ugly side of it in some ways. If it becomes obsessive, I mean, you have to have. Lyndon Johnson, the president in the 60s, once said that the three most important things in politics are money, money, and money. I like to think he wasn't exactly right about that, but it is important. So. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate, this conversation. Obviously, I think it's very timely with what we're going through at the moment and what we'll continue to see shifts and advocacy. And, we don't necessarily have time to get into lobbyists and going down that road, but we did kind of touch on, funding around politics and the amount of money that can flow through not only just different campaigns, but different offices, if you will.
Right.
So, one of the fun things that we do on the show, and I have to give you credit because you were one of the quickest to respond to this next segment that we call Biscuits Corner.
Okay.
Because I think it's important. I think one of the things that you learn about folks is, one of the conversations that comes up often is whether or not you have a pet, or whether or not, if you do or you don't, why is the case? And you always get great stories from folks, and it varies. So we created the segment Biscuits Corner to talk about our guest pets. Okay. And you were quick to respond because your puppy is new.
She's new. We adopted Madigan in August 18th.
Yeah.
After a long search that led to many dead ends.
Okay.
And we were sort of not able to do it. And I thought, if we don't adopt a dog the day before the semester, I'll get locked in again and it'll be Christmas.
Yep.
So we bought her on August 18th, a Sunday in Hudson, Michigan, at Bachman's Kennel, Beagles and Basset Hounds, a specialty. And it's been great. We love her. The kids love her. My wife and I love her. She brings a lot to the family. I mean, she's a lot of work.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of work,
absolutely.
especially. But as she gets a little older, she's sort of maturing a little bit as a puppy. And so it's going well.
Good, awesome.
Well.
And as you think about it too, I think it's in reference to really our conversation today, right? You mentioned like August 18th, kind of 18th is when she arrived.
Yes, that's when we got her.
And you think about it, we're moving into November now.
Yes.
Like you're right. You get into the mode of the semester and boom, we're here.
Right.
So now, does everyone in the household have a different kind of task or chore with
we're
the new
still
puppy?
working that out.
Oh, okay, fair, yeah.
But ideally, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
I mean, we're pretty close.
Yeah.
I think the dog is, feeling more at home with us.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Which has been great.
Yeah, awesome. And thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, sure.
So our last segment is, we call it kind of a rapid fire kind of question. So don't think about it.
Okay.
Just kind of first comes to mind.
Try not to think. I'll just
Try not to
fire
think.
away.
Just
Okay.
let it kind of come out. So we'll ask a few questions. So what's your favorite cookie?
Chocolate chip.
Okay. Favorite ice cream?
Chocolate chip.
Okay. Favorite cheese?
Not a huge cheese eater.
Okay, that's fair.
I'll grab it occasionally in like a reception, but I can't discern one cheese from another, really.
Fair.
Yeah.
Favorite pasta dish?
Spaghetti, I
Okay.
guess.
Yeah. And one of our last ones will be, do you prefer gloves or mittens?
On my hands?
Yes.
I'd say gloves, a little more flexible.
Okay.
I like mittens okay, too.
Okay, so gloves have the edge over the mittens.
Yes, I would say ultimately, yeah.
Fair, yeah. And we're getting into that season
Right.
here soon. And the last one is, what's your most memorable elementary school experience, we'll say?
Well, I was in the same elementary school for 9 years. So
Okay.
I was at St. Catherine of Siena in Albany. Learning how to read in kindergarten was a big one.
Okay.
I mean, there were many good moments after that, if you
Yep.
maybe not so good, but I remember learning how to read. Mrs. Kelly was able to
Yep.
teach 5-year-old kids how to read. And it's almost like she waved a magic wand over us somehow. And that one stands out.
Yep. So you still remember the classroom?
I do.
Yep. And the different aspects of that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yep. Well, I thank you for joining us,
You're welcome.
Jason. It's great to have you on the show.
Yeah.
And
Thanks, Terry.
definitely we will keep an eye on what happens over the next month and over the next year
Yeah, very good.
in politics. So,
Very good.
one of the things I'll say is, we're very excited about kind of even looking at this episode of Tuesdays with Terry. We have a different variety of guests on the show, and that's what it's about. It's about creating conversation here on the Aquinas College community. And, we look forward to what will happen on our next episode. If you are interested in joining us, feel free to reach out and email me. We'd be excited to get you on our list for one of our upcoming episodes. So again, I thank you for joining us, and we very thankful for our guests today, Sara Haviland and Dr. Jason Duncan, for being a part of the show. Have a great week, and we look forward to seeing you on our next episode.